Remember when buying a compact sedan meant accepting a ton of compromises? Basic tech, cheap materials, and the constant reminder you couldn't afford anything better? Well, this is Kia's all-new K4. It costs less than the established competition, but comes with a massive display across the dash, advanced driver assists that were luxury car features just a few years ago, and interior space that makes some mid-sized sedans look cramped. I've spent the week with this K4 just to figure out what the catch is. What's it like? Buckle up, my friends. Let's go for a drive. I'm your host, Brian Makse, racer, lover of driving fast, fun things, and on this channel, you get reviews for drivers from drivers. Now, when there's an all-new compact sedan in the segment, we definitely have to take a look at it. And this Kia K4, yes, it's related to some other cars we're familiar with, but it is an all-new car in the Kia lineup, and we have to look at this. And before we get into what it's like to drive, let's have a look at it in a little more depth. This all-new K4 is meant to replace the Forte in Kia's lineup. It's much bigger on the inside, that's for sure, and it uses a completely different platform that it shares with the Hyundai Elantra. And the design of this K4, well, I think it makes the Forte look like it was designed with crayons. Under the hood is a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that makes 147 horsepower at 6,200 RPM and 132 pounds of torque at 4,500 RPM. They call the transmission an intelligent variable transmission, which means it's a CVT, and we'll get into how it works a little bit later. It is front-wheel drive. Steering is electrically assisted with a column-mounted assist motor. Suspension's based around McPherson struts at the front and a torsion beam at the rear. It has 4-wheel disc brakes, as you'd expect. Wheels and tires on this EX model are 17s, and curb weight is just shy of 3,000 pounds. You know how your morning coffee progression goes? First sip, you're barely awake. Second sip, things start coming into focus. Third sip, you're finally human again. That's exactly what this K4 in Morning Haze is like. At first glance, you think, oh, another gray sedan. Then you notice the fastback design. By the third take, you look at this and you say, well, Kia's designers might actually be onto something here. And unlike my specialty coffee addiction, this might actually be good for your wallet. Did you know that 80% of you are not subscribed? Yes, it's true. 80% of you are not subscribed. I checked the data. So if you like the content on this channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, make sure you like this, and if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Now back to your regularly scheduled episode. One of the things I really appreciate about Kia's interior designs is that their ergonomics are straightforward. Absolutely straightforward. There's no learning curve here. Everything is laid out logically, not quite as driver-centric as perhaps a Mazda cockpit, but everything here is laid out as it should be, and that allows you to get on with the business of driving. The fundamental seating position is perfect. I'm seated nice and low in the chassis. The seat is modestly supportive. It's very comfortable. Absolutely love this cloth. This is some fantastic cloth. Really dig this upholstery. And the steering wheel, well, it's not quite round. It's got this flat bit at the top, flat bit at the bottom. This is clearly an aesthetic decision, not a functional decision. I'd much prefer a round steering wheel. There's plenty of adjustment in the seat as well as the steering column for pretty much anyone to be comfortable behind the wheel of this K4. I've got a great relationship to the wheel and the pedals, and for the most part, my hands are here at 9 and 3 on the wheel anyway. It's only in those parking situations where this oval-shaped steering wheel becomes a little bit odd, and again, I'm sure some people will appreciate the fact that this is somehow distinctive from any other vehicle in the category. Really appreciate that this has heated seats and a heated steering wheel because it's been exceptionally cold during this week of testing, but I do find that this heated seat kind of has 3 settings, like lukewarm coffee, hot pocket, and Satan sauna. Remember when your parents got their first smartphone and discovered emojis? Well, that's kind of what Kia has done with this big screen. Nearly 30 inches of display. It's like they rated a Best Buy and said, yes, all of them. But unlike your dad's emoji phase, this actually makes sense. And the user interface is smoother than my transitions to sponsored content, and I've practiced those. Love the way it works in all kinds of lighting. Yes, you can adjust the brightness of the screen as well, which is helpful at night, and love the way it works. I use it on wireless CarPlay, and it works absolutely fantastic that way. On one hand, I appreciate the mechanical feel of the shifter because there's no mistaking which gear we've selected, but on the other hand, we know it's controlled electronically, and the one thing you have to do when you stop this thing is you have to physically put it in park before you switch it off, whereas an electronic shifter, you could probably just hit the stop button and the whole thing would shut off, put itself in park automatically. In terms of visibility, well, no issues here. Great sight lines out the front, out the back. Well, because we've got this fastback roof line, it's a little shorter than I would expect out the rear view mirror, but as far as I'm concerned, great visibility all around, and these outboard mirrors are nice and big. When we adjust all three mirrors here properly, blind spots aren't a thing, and we know on this channel blind spots aren't real. One thing I have to mention is the clarity and fidelity of the backup camera image. It is outstanding. I've not seen anything like this, maybe ever. The image is so clear that it's clearer than my understanding of the YouTube algorithm. In terms of spaciousness, that's where this K4 shines. There's lots of room in the front row as well as the second row. There's lots of storage here, and it all is laid out wonderfully. These cup holders may be worth talking about. I'm sure other channels might do a better job with the way the cup holders work. I'm not going to get into the cup holders anymore because we really don't talk about that on this channel. The second row is very spacious as well. Even with the fastback roofline, I still have lots of headroom in the back seat and can fit comfortably behind myself in the seating position. Fun fact, those rear door handles are so well hidden, they're harder to find than Waldo. And the trunk, well, there's tons of trunk space as well. And given the response of everybody I've had in this K4, I'd love to have been part of the interior design meeting. I'm sure it went along the lines of, well, make it look expensive, but don't make it expensive to make. It's like shopping at Target while watching Architectural Digest. Everything you touch, for the most part, feels premium. Everything you don't, well, let's just say Kia's accountants didn't lose any sleep. Well, it's quick enough. I guess it'll do 0 to 60 in a little over 7 seconds, which is quick. And the whole drivetrain kind of works really well together, as we will discuss, but it is quick enough and maybe quicker than a lot of the competition. I haven't really looked at 0 to 60 times, but 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds for a car like this, I'm willing to accept that. Top speed is maybe 130 miles an hour. Not too bad, but what happens is this naturally aspirated engine works exactly like a naturally aspirated engine. So peak power is way up in the rev range and peak torque is somewhere in the middle to upper end. So it doesn't act like a modern turbo engine. So you gotta get it working to get that acceleration going. Now let's have a real conversation about this engine. It makes 147 horsepower, and that's not a lot in 2025. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight where everyone else brought a tank. But here's the thing, the engine and transmission are so well calibrated, they're smoother than my attempts to convince my wife that project cars are investments. Sure, it's not going to win any drag races, but it does win at the gas pump, and in 2025, that's the kind of race we do want to win. Sure, it's easy to complain that this makes just 147 horsepower, but then I remembered my first car made 102 horsepower, and that's the kind of inflation I can get behind. And I know some of you are going to want to talk about it at length, so let's address the elephant in the room, this IVT. Kia basically looked at regular CVTs, which most enthusiasts treat like a root canal, and they said, we can fix that. They switched to a chain belt system, programmed in fake gear changes, and even gave it a new name, because calling it a CVT is like mentioning Voldemort in the automotive world. And you know what? It actually works. This thing behaves more like an automatic than it does that CVT in your aunt's old Nissan. And there's really no downside to it, except from time to time when it does the CVT type things while I'm asking for maximum acceleration. But even then, when I'm asking for maximum acceleration, it actually mimics gear shifts, and that's what contributes to its natural feeling. With the 147 horsepower, torque steer is not really a thing in this front driver. It puts down all the power and all the torque that you ask it for. And pretty much on any road surface except for snow, you are not going to be able to exceed the traction limits of the front tires. When it comes to the Kia's dynamics, I definitely have a lot to talk about here. With respect to handling, well, the suspension is definitely set up to be very crowd-pleasing. First thing I will have to address is that the fact that this has a torsion beam rear suspension doesn't have any impact on its dynamics. The handling dynamics, very crowd-pleasing. It's softly suspended, softly damped. Every once in a while, over larger road imperfections, there's some secondary and tertiary movements in both directions. In my humble opinion, I'd love for these dampers to have a little bit more compression and rebound control. There's just a little too much secondary movement for me. And it's highlighted in this part of the world because our roads are not smooth. In other parts of the world, the suspension is just fine. And here, because the roads are so bad, it puts a microscope on the damping of this K4. But let's be honest, if you're thinking of taking your K4 to a track day, you might want to reconsider your life choices. Steering, I've got no complaints about. It's strong on center, definitely translates my inputs to the appropriate amount of directional change I'm looking for. No complaints about the steering whatsoever. Braking as well, definitely highlight. Brakes are strong. The brake pedal itself is on the soft side, so there's a lot more assist than I would like. But once I'm into the brake pedal, I've got excellent feel control, modulation. Because I've driven this in some snow, I've been able to experience the ABS in all kinds of situations, and the ABS does a great job of slowing this thing down in low grip conditions and also keeps it tracking straight. Plus, as I've discovered, the stability and traction control do a good job in the snow as well. I'm not going to get any more deep. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Deep snow, and this thing is perfectly stable. The stability controls got me all dialed here. This is fantastic. Wow. And even at this EX trim level, this thing has so many advanced driver assist systems, they would make my backseat driving grandmother redundant, and she really didn't like my driving, let alone the fact that I was racing cars. Adaptive cruise, lane keeping, forward collision assist. It's like having a helicopter parent made of semiconductors. I think the only thing it doesn't do is judge your music choices, which is a rare thing these days because even coffee makers have an opinion on your music. And overall, here's the thing about the K4's dynamics. They're like a really good Netflix show. Not the kind that wins fancy awards or gets critics excited, but the kind you actually want to watch every day. The ride's comfortable enough to make you forget about the bad roads we have. The handling's secure enough to inspire some confidence if you do want to enjoy this in the corners. And everything just works. It's the compact sedan equivalent of comfort food. Maybe not Michelin star quality, and I did take this K4 to a Michelin star restaurant, but it's kind of like the meal you want to have at the end of a very long day. How do you spec yours? Well, this is an interesting question to ponder, and there are some considerations. What you are looking at is a Kia K4 EX in Morning Haze paint with a gray and black interior. And I gotta say, this Morning Haze paint is more neutral than Switzerland. In the US, base price and as tested is $23,900. In Canada, base price is $24,495 plus $250 for this paint for an as tested price of $26,645. And these prices are before freight and local taxes. Here's where it gets interesting. We've been talking about the 147 horsepower is adequate, and that's just fine. But when you look deep into the K4 lineup, Kia might just have an ace up its sleeve. The GT Line Turbo stuffs a 1.6-liter turbocharged engine under the hood that pumps out 190 horsepower and 195 pounds of torque. But that's just the beginning. They ditch the intelligent variable transmission for a proper 8-speed automatic, swap in bigger brakes, and perhaps most importantly, ditch the torsion beam rear suspension for a multi-link setup. It's not quite a hot hatch in sedan form, but it certainly spices things up from this EX, and I'm looking forward to driving that GT Line Turbo. My verdict, well, let's start with fuel consumption because it's relevant to a compact sedan like this. And without trying, I'm averaging 30 miles per gallon. And regular viewers of the show know that I'm not afraid to use the throttle. That's about 8 liters per 100 kilometers for my Canadian friends. And after a week with this K4, I've learned a lot. This K4 in EX trim isn't perfect. The 147 horsepower won't win any drag races. And some of the interior materials remind you that this is still a value-focused vehicle. But Kia has done something clever here. They've invested in the things that people actually care about. Comfortable seats, intuitive tech, impressive safety features, and the massive digital display just impresses everyone. One catch is you'll be constantly explaining to your friends why your compact sedan has more tech than their SUV. Indeed, the K4 isn't perfect. Nothing is, except maybe pizza. But what Kia's done here is like pulling off a magic trick where everyone can see how it's done, but they're still impressed. They've taken the compact sedan formula, added a dose of luxury features, sprinkled in some tech from the future, and somehow kept the price in the present. And with this Morning Haze paint on the distinctive lines of the K4, it's like Kia is not even trying to hide how good of a deal this four-door sedan is. Thanks for hanging out with me today and having a look at this 2025 Kia K4 EX. Hope you liked this episode, and if you did, you're not new, you know what to do. Smash the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, like this, and as always, sharing is caring, so please share this with your friends, especially on Reddit, because on Reddit, they really need to see reviews for drivers from drivers. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. And remember, cars don't understeer by themselves, not even Kia K4s. And since you've hung around this long, well, have a look at an episode about the Hyundai Elantra N, which is the extreme end of performance of this platform. This K4 shares its platform with the Elantra. I think you'll enjoy that episode. See you again next time. There's a whole right turn lane for you. It's right there. You can use it. I know it's hard to drive and it's hard to see that you can use it.